Does anyone know what we're supposed to do? Anyone? Does anyone know what we're supposed to do when West Ham win a game at home? Because I forgot. I'm Will Pugh. I'm joined by James Jones. And West Ham United have claimed 3 points in the Premier League at their home stadium, a thing which for most teams is a reasonably common occurrence, but not for the mighty Hammers, who for the last God knows how many months have been confounding football fans up and down the country with their inability to do anything even resembling faintly a normal Premier League football club. West Ham United 3, Newcastle United 1, Saudi-backed Newcastle United, European football playing Newcastle United, multi-million pound squad Newcastle United, international players all over the place Newcastle United, awful away from home Newcastle United, to be fair. One team's awful run had to continue, and thank God it wasn't West Ham's. James Jones, I had a long-standing golfing weekend commitment up at the Belfry. Very nice it was too. Therefore, I wasn't able to attend the game. You did. You watched us win. How did it feel? What was that like? And then, of course, there was a sit-in afterwards. Interested to know whether you attended that, given your previous declarations on the protests, given that this one was a bit more convenient logistically for you.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the football. And delighted, pleasantly surprised, sort of rocked up in Stratford on Sunday afternoon, fully expecting to see us lose, based purely off the evidence of the last two games against Brentford and Leeds, just going, yeah, well, this isn't going to go very well. It all rests on the starting 11, and if he plays Souček and Irving again, then we're in for a hiding. Confidence was boosted by the fact that he didn't play Souček and Irving, and the starting 11 resembled an actual proper starting 11 with players playing in their right position. And the midfield that we've been crying out for a while, the one that ended the Leeds game and made us all immediately look a lot better. And the performance was good. Well worth the 3 points. Well worth the 3 points. In terms of the protest, now when I made that declaration that yes,
don't start qualifying it before you said.
Right.
Did you go to the sit-in afterwards?
When I made the declaration that I would do that, logistically at the time, it suited me. Events happened after I made that declaration, which meant that logistically it was no longer suitable for me.
No.
As people may see, I have different surroundings, right? I've moved. So I went to the game and then had to leave the game to then come back and continue moving into my flat. So I didn't do the sit-in, no.
Fair enough. What did you... I mean, we've got lots to cover. What was the general mood around the place? Because a few people have sort of said to me, oh, West Ham back to winning ways. It's like, what do you mean back to? I haven't been winning during winning ways for a very long time. Got a lot of messages, by the way, in the week, which I appreciated. Quite a few people sort of getting in touch, just saying, look, thanks for not dressing it up or being fake about it. Last week's Leeds podcast was about the most miserable one I can remember doing, and we've done quite a few of them in recent times. What was the feeling around the place afterwards? Because let's be honest, although the win is great, and a win is great, especially a home win, to get that sort of monkey off our backs or whatever. Still in the relegation zone, 7 points from 10 games, 18th place in the league, 3 points still, and 2 goal difference behind Burnley. Sorry, forgive me, 4 goal difference behind Burnley, who are in 17th. What was the feeling around the place, sort of on the macro stuff that we've discussed before?
Well, from the vibe in there was positive. Like the atmosphere at kickoff was good. Throughout the game, I felt like the atmosphere was probably the best we've had there for a while. There wasn't any negativity, really. I think that was helped by the fact that we started well. obviously we went 1-0 down in the 4th minute, but that their goal came immediately after Bowen had hit the post, and then they got possession, ran down the rim and scored, and it was like what can you do? And we reacted to it really well. Like straight away, we reacted, and I think that just really injected the crowd with a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of positivity. That how many times have we seen this West Ham team go 1-0 down and then just collapse? And instead, we went straight back down the other end, and we were playing well, and we were keeping possession, and we were creating chances. I think that just got the crowd up for it. Won a penalty, obviously it got ruled out, and then not long after that, we equalised, and it was just the overall vibe in the ground almost wasn't reflective of the overall situation that we're currently in.
Right.
It'd be very easy to forget that we're in the bottom 3 and there are protests going on, because it was just overall like a really good afternoon on the stadium. Like the atmosphere was good, the performance was good. We got 3 points. But I was. If it's the first time you'd ever been there, there would be people. You'd be like, "What was all the fuss about?" What's all the fuss about?
Okay. As always, we will encourage people to follow us on socials at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter. We are West Ham Pod on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We Are West Ham Podcast over there. And of course, if you want to get all these podcasts a day before everyone else and get them without adverts on, then subscribe at patreon.com/We Are West Ham Podcast, just for a couple of quid a month. And like I say, podcast a day early, no adverts. And you get the feel-good factor of supporting this podcast and keeping it going and supporting me and James. Obviously, quite a few financial commitments linked to doing such a podcast, and you get the warm, heartwarming feeling of helping out with that, and you get to get stuck in the We Are West Ham podcast community chat, which I would just say, Jonesy, is a lot more animated after the game against Newcastle than it can be usually. Everyone feeling a little bit more cheery. Ben Orr going 2-footed on Mohamed Kudus, by the way, which I love. West Ham win, but he's still making time to go 2-footed on Kudus. Classic Kudus performance yesterday versus Chelsea. Scored v Leeds when they were down to 10 men. 2 assists v Burnley against decent teams or tough situations. Nowhere to be seen. Love that from Ben. What have we got here? Right. Jim's been in touch as well. He says, doesn't this just sum us up on how rubbish we are? Just been in the club shop. Oh, sorry. I thought this was post game. What we got? Paul, Super Thomas Suchek. Ben, how's Freddie Potts not started a game before today? There's your mobile central defensive midfielder right there. Morris Cohen, we did it, boys. We're finishing 12th again. Whoopee! Oh, here we go. James, I don't know if you've seen this message already. Adam Nethersole, Freddie Potts will end up being better than Declan Rice. Jim wouldn't go that far yet, but he was excellent today. Makes a decision not to play him earlier, baffling. Paul says he's 22, so about the same age as when Rice came good. Remember when he first came into the side and he was still a centre-back, cost us multiple games, and I was never able to see why Pellegrini then Moyes stuck with him. I always had that thought about Reece Oxford being the one that got away. Then after 3 years of suffering through Rice maturing and moving into the midfield, it was like, oh, okay, this guy's got a chip on his shoulder and will outwork his lack of natural ability. Polar opposite of Ravel Morrison. Need to see more of Potts for sure, but hope he has more to give. We showed another message here. We showed a bit of grit and determination today, even after the disappointment of hitting the post and then conceding the early goal. Thought we fought back well, and that with a bit of luck, and that bit of luck with the own goal was just what we needed. Would have liked more attacking in the second half, but we kept our shape and we're not really opened up. So a very good win. Need the same against Burnley, but tonight the world is a much better place. What a pleasant, JDD's got in touch. What a pleasant and non-depressing Sunday. Have a brilliant week. And a few people saying, in Nuno we trust. Patreon.com/We Are West Ham Podcast. If you fancy getting stuck in as well, plenty of debate. Thanks to Tom and Paul who have joined today, I believe. Notifications that I've just got there. Hello, guys. Welcome. Go on then, James. Would you make of any of those? You sort of obviously just everyone relishing in us being all right for once. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just being generally miserable and cantankerous at the moment. Off the back of the Leeds and Brentford games, I suppose, which are bad. Just hard to get too excited about it, I suppose. Hopefully, we win the FA Cup.
Yeah, I think if you were there, you probably would have seen it a little bit differently. Obviously, the performance was surprising, but like, if we touch on Potts, when he came off the bench against Leeds, immediately we just looked a lot better in and out of possession. And to him start, he played the full 90 minutes and just was so composed on the ball in midfield. Every time he got the ball, he just didn't rush. He didn't, he wasn't in a hurry. Always made the right decisions. For someone so young for a first Premier League start against the very physical Newcastle midfield as well, just to not have any, as if he'd been playing Premier League football for the last 4 years. He just looks so mature. And I think that's what we've lacked, is that kind of composure in midfield, and Potts gave us that. And then him alongside Fernandez, who was able to get forward a little bit more, be a little bit more creative, a little bit more mobile in behind their midfield, linking up well with Paqueta a couple of times as well. It finally seemed like, right, this is our strongest 11. We've done it. We've finally found it. But yeah, I can see why some people were like, let's just chill out here a little bit. It is only one win, but it's a win against a good Newcastle side. Yes, they've not been very good away from home, but it's still a good Newcastle side with a lot of very good players. And I had a beer before the game with a colleague of mine who's a Newcastle fan, and he was like, anything less than 3 points for Newcastle is a disaster. We are fully expect us to win this, comfortably. So they were expecting to rock up and win. But the proof is whether we can then transfer.
I'm not surprised, by the way.
No. The proof now is that, okay, right, we've got Burnley on Saturday. Same performance against Burnley on Saturday, and then I think we can then go, okay, right, we've turned a corner. Things are on the up. But it does make the starting 11 and the performance against Newcastle makes the decision to those starting 11s against Brentford and Leeds just even more baffling.
Yeah, and maybe he's trying to send a message. I don't know, keep the first team players on their toes, or no, they're not too good for it. But you also, I don't think it's the time necessarily. Just play your best team. But yeah, I'm with you. Listen, look, we'll chat about that more in a minute, James. Don't, like I said, follow us on all our socials. We'll go and subscribe to us on Patreon. Me and James will have a bit more of a chat about the Newcastle game next. Very sorry, by the way, that we weren't able to publish a Newcastle opposition view next week. I got let down by a unique 3 people in 1 week, which is the most I've ever been let down by opposition views before. Newcastle fans normally very, very good. But yeah, just a few different factors outside of our control, sadly, meant we weren't able to nail a Newcastle opposition view. So very sorry for that last week. Hope you can forgive us. There will be a Burnley opposition view this week. It will be Joe from the Turf Cast. We've had him on before. He's a friend of the show. He's a friend of ours. Really glad Burnley are back in the Premier League, mainly because it's the easiest, or one of the easiest opposition views I have to organise. It's just a quick text to Joe. He's always well up for it. So you will hear from Joe later this week. But stay with us for the rest of the show. A bit more analysis on an actual win for West Ham United at home next. Where do you want to start then, James? I think we should start with Freddie Potts. Obviously, one of the Patreon messages we got there, I think he'll be as good as Declan. You said something similar before we came on air. Give me your Freddie Potts thoughts.
Well, I didn't say that. I don't think he'd be as good as Declan Rice. I think it had echoes of when Declan Rice broke into the West Ham first team, and he showed signs of this could be the next youth player to come through the academy and stay in the first team for a period of time. so many over the years have come in, played 1 or 2 games, and then you just never see them again. They end up playing for Colchester or some random
Luton.
League 1 or League 2 team, or Luton. Yeah, mainly Luton, isn't it?
Mainly Luton, yeah.
And
his brother played. Dan Potts played for or plays for Luton still.
Yeah. So you get so many of those, and it already feels like, okay, well, maybe this is the next Declan Rice in terms of that. Whether he goes on and becomes as good as Declan Rice, I think is is way too early to even start speculating. But based on just that 90-minute performance and the odd cameo that he's made off the bench, especially in the second half against Leeds, there's certainly reason to be quite optimistic that, yes, he won't get dropped against Burnley. He'll be in the starting 11 against Burnley based on that performance alone. And that's a great platform for him.
Suchek and Irving get back in.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, we love an academy player, don't we? And especially with Potts as well, with the family connection, his dad, his brother, mainly his dad, obviously made, 500 appearances for the club, 400 appearances for the club. So maybe
500. It was more than that. 500. I want to say 525, but I'm going to check.
Yeah. So there's the family connection with it as well. And it's just exciting to see him come through. And it was just so good to see him play so well. And he obviously gets man of the match. Jared Bowen's raving about him after the game. So yeah, whether he's going to be the next Declan Rice or not is a different matter. But I think we found our next Premier League level academy graduate who will stay in the first team for hopefully many years to come.
Those of you who've commented recently about James having splinters up his backside from all the fence sitting, I think that's as much of a James Jones statement as you can get.
I don't see the problem with that. If I'd have started going, he's going to be the next Declan Rice. In fact, he's already better than Declan Rice.
But that's why we have a cult following, James.
What are you talking about, James? You're talking rubbish. People should.
That's how you make it in the content creation world these days, James. Say ridiculous stuff you don't.
Well, I've already done that. I've already done that. I said a lot of ridiculous things about Kudus, and I got smashed for that on social media.
Yeah.
So when I feel like I need to say
You're
something,
right, though.
Yeah, I was. But when I feel like I want to say something strong, I'll say it strong.
Yeah.
But here I'm reserving my judgment on it, and I don't want to put too much pressure on the young man.
Because he will be listening to the We Are West Ham podcast, of course. Sorry, James. I've vowed to someone at work and myself, I'm going to try and get into AI a bit more, right? So even though I'm sort of generally like bit apprehensive about it, I've just asked how many times did Steve Potts and I forgot to finish the question, play for West Ham is what I meant, and it turns out Steve Potts is also a jazz saxophonist according to ChatGPT. What I will say, by the way, anyone else grappling with whoever's getting to AI at the moment, huge water usage, which I'm very worried about, but people get a bit bored of me saying that sort of stuff at work and call me woke. Yeah, it uses something like, I mean, I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but he uses loads of water to keep the massive servers cool in the US. It's dangerous for our fresh water supply.
It doesn't help when people like you are going, I'm going to get into AI and then just use it like Google. Like you've just asked it a question that you could just have asked Google. No,
well, that's the thing, James. I did ask Google. But then you get Wikipedia, which doesn't show all appearances. Well, apparently, yeah. Look, here we go. Look, this is according to ChatGPT. Steve Potts made 399 first-team appearances for West Ham between 1985 and 2002. If you include all competitions, obviously, some sources round that up to over 400, but the official tag is generally 399. It always winds me up. That's why I don't Google stats like that anymore. Because
I'll give you an
who doesn't count cup games? It's like, yeah, obviously we want to count cup games.
My records here show 506 appearances.
506? Yeah, well, I said 525.
506 and one goal. One goal.
His testimonial was one of the first. This was my first real one of my earliest West Ham memories. He played Queen's Park Rangers in 1998, I want to say. It wasn't my first game, actually. It might be my second or third. And Trevor Sinclair with dreadlocks was playing for QPR. And yeah, Steve Potts testimonial. It's one of my first West Ham memories.
I think I went to that many years ago.
Yeah. God knows what we were talking about before that. Yeah, you saying Freddie Potts is 100% going to be better than Declan Rice and going to captain England to World Cup glory, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said, yeah. Along those lines,
yeah. Lucas Paqueta, James, scored a very good goal. Sort of one of those, a bit like the one he scored against Chelsea. It's kind of like, brilliant, great goal, well done, Lucas, congrats. You sort of still of the opinion that don't really see enough from him. What did you said poor goalkeeping? What did you make of the goal? How did he play?
The goal was good, but yeah, Nick Pope will be disappointed. He's been beaten at his near post, and he's kind of like dived over the ball a little bit. I don't know, really. Like most keepers in the Premier League should be saving that, I think. But overall, Paqueta's performance was good. It was typical Paqueta. Like he still drifted in and out. His good moments were very, very good, but then there were times where he was trying too many flicks. There were times like at the edge of the box, he's flicking the ball about, and like, mate, what are you doing? Like, just get the ball out. There's 5 minutes left. Stop it. But yeah, I think overall it was a typical Lucas Paqueta performance from a positive end of the spectrum. In that, he did a lot of good things, but every now and then his decision making was a little bit off. But it was a lot more. You could tell he had a little bit of confidence about him. And I think the goal helped, but a lot of those sort of like flicks and tricks, and which were coming off, to be fair, most of the time. He linked up really well with Fernandes. And I like that little partnership they've got. They appear to be growing. So yeah, overall a decent performance from him. Like, there's not a single player in that 11 that played badly, if I'm honest.
Callum Wilson, my next question. Finally got his first minutes under Nuno away at Leeds. And yeah, then ends up starting the game again, like you say, sort of strikers playing as strikers, left backs playing as left backs. By the way, we will be talking, James, about Diouf and his participation in the build-up to Newcastle's goal, and the question of whether or not the bloke can actually defend, given that he's a left back. Talk to me about Callum Wilson quickly first.
He offered us something up front.
Here we go.
But at the same time, he had a difficult afternoon up against Botman. Like Botman,
right.
Like there were a couple of times when the referee probably could have given Wilson a couple of fouls. Botman was all over him quite a lot. Really, like real physical afternoon. A bit of a battle. But I still feel like if we're going to improve, we need someone who's a lot more younger and a little bit more mobile up front. But he gave us a focal point, which we've lacked. But we need a striker that we can rely on to score goals. And I don't think, barring the odd one that he'll no doubt get, I think, if we have him for the rest of the season, he might get maybe 2 or 3 more. But he's not going to be a consistent goal threat and goal scorer for us, I don't think, in this system. But he did give us something.
So does he start for you then until Fulcrug's back, until Jan?
Yeah, I think he does. I think he starts every week now. For as long as he's fit, he starts every week.
Fair enough. Do you want to talk about Diouf and getting absolutely turned inside out by Murphy in the build-up to his goal? It was the worst defending I've ever seen, apart from his last attempt at defending. Because you said he's going to win the Ballon d'Or, didn't you?
I didn't say that at all. You've developed a knack of putting words in my mouth. I've seen worse defending than that from Todibo.
What sort of statement is that? That's not good, is it? Then Roger Johnson probably doesn't mean
Roger Johnson, who's still running backwards, by the way.
Yeah, that's what the youth was doing. It was Roger Johnson-esque.
Yeah, but you say that as if like defenders don't do that all the time. Loads of defenders run backwards.
He's about 10. Look, honestly, it's embarrassing. It's Jacob Murphy as well, by the way. Turns him inside out. What he does is goes one way and goes the other. Deuce is sprinting away from him like there's no tomorrow. Murphy goes, all right. Oh, nice one. Thanks very much, mate.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's good, but I'm saying it's a little bit harsh just digging him out just for doing what most defenders do and hold off the defender. Yes, he should have done better. But
most defenders defend and put a tackle in and stop the opponents from scoring. That's what defending is.
Let's not dig him out. Let's not dig him out. We've just won a game of football and you're already digging out a defender.
No, I'm just continuing. I'm staying consistent. I'm continuing my criticism of his defensive abilities as I have been in the face of the same sort of people who were Moyes out thinking that'd be good for the club, but the same sort of people now saying, yeah, he's well better than Emerson just because he's done a couple of half-decent crosses away at Sunderland, which we also lost. The bloke alongside Kilman and Tadibo isn't very good at defending.
Okay, terrible defending. Right, drop him next week. Get rid of him.
Absolutely.
Sell him.
Yeah. Who should we get in there? Skulls?
I don't know, but flog him for a tenner in January.
Yeah. And get Emerson back. Get Emerson back.
Maybe we'll get Emerson back. Or I don't know, maybe we'll just play Freddie Potts there. Why not?
Or do what Nuno was doing a few weeks ago, just playing one of our right backs at left.
Yeah. Or
Suchek.
Matt Hermanson can't get a game, stick him there.
Matt Hermanson, God, absolute tragic. The fact that he's still at the club. Kilman and Tadibo. James, have given them a bit of a leathering in recent weeks.
He's swapped them, so they're on opposite sides of the centre back pairing. And I gave Tadibo a grilling last week. Called him Bambi. Not impressed with him at all against Leeds, and his best performance in a West Ham shirt immediately looked just a lot better. And it baffles me that how centre backs can immediately look better at football just by playing on the opposite side of the defence than they would normally play. Like
unless it's the fullbacks.
Yeah, unless it's the fullbacks. But like Kilman was like winning everything in the air, like being an actual defender, not mucking about, just being an actual defender, clearing everything. And Tadibo just looks a lot more composed on the ball. And I'm a little bit baffled as to how that's even possible, because he was literally just playing 5 yards to the other side of the defence than he would normally do. And immediately looked like, I can see why he played for Barcelona now. It's just all a little bit weird. Not complaining. But yeah, both Kilman and Tadibo looked a lot better and a lot more comfortable playing alongside each other. In those roles. So yeah, maybe that's a change that will stick in defence moving forward as well. But yeah, pleasantly surprised again. Pleasantly surprised.
Huge. Anything else then, Jonesy? Anything else that do you feel that's our best team for now?
I think it's our best. I think it's our strongest 11. Yeah, right now. The midfield. Obviously, we really need to buy a striker in January, I think. But again, Somerville looked good. Bowen was a little bit quiet, but it's hit the post just before their goal. But overall, typical Bowen performance, but was probably a little bit quiet by his own standards. But Somerville was, dangerous down on the left-hand side. So it's definitely our strongest 11 if we can keep them all fit. That's a big if these days, isn't it?
True story. Right, James, I think I do want to have a chat to you about the sit-in in a little while. A little look ahead to Burnley. And if I'm correct, your 7 points that you wanted from the next 4 games, this is game number 3. That is actually over now, isn't it? But we could still get 6. Which isn't too bad at all. But stay with us. Me and James will have a chat about the sit-in afterwards and where the protests go from here next. Right. What do you think then, James? Just first of all, I know you didn't go. I assume you've seen pictures of it afterwards. It didn't get loads of media coverage. The media coverage it has got has been sort of largely critical of it. Did you sort of said on the last podcast after the boycott, which you had your reasons for not you didn't boycott. You went to the game. I chose to stay away from that game. But we sort of had a long discussion that we weren't actually too far from each other's positions, just slightly either side of the middle line. What did you make of the protest this time round? The decision maybe to do one so soon, and do you sort of feel that because lots of the coverage seems to be, if it's not mocking it or sort of a bit of criticism or just generally sort of saying, oh well, that look, get one win and no one cares about it. What did you make of the whole thing?
Well, obviously, I didn't see it in person. I've seen some pictures. And I have spoken to people that did hang about for a little while afterwards. And I think the overall consensus from them was that winning in the way that we did kind of almost dampened the appetite.
Of course.
To do it,
as
and
it
kind
would,
of like if everyone was just like, well, we've just won, so like, what are we moaning about now, sort of thing. Like let's go and have a few beers and enjoy it, sort of thing. I think that probably led to fewer people staying in the ground, and it was a little bit scattered as well, wasn't it? People sort of all over the place. It was, which admittedly it can be difficult to get everyone all in one spot, but to stage an actual sit-in like that, unless you have the entire ground stay. But yeah, I think the fact that we won probably just kind of removed a lot of appetite for it, which is probably why there was a little bit of criticism for it, because a lot of neutrals are probably looking at it going, hang on, he just won a game of football. What are we protesting for now? That doesn't mean to say that the fans shouldn't have done it. Yes, there is question marks over it, but was it too soon after last week to do a different one? Maybe there should have been a little bit of a gap in between. But yeah, I'm surprised that there is criticism from those outside the club.
I think it's not less so criticism, maybe more just sort of like it didn't have as much impact.
Yeah,
and by doing it at the end of the game, is it weird? Like, do you sort of minimize its impact, or you sort of? It's a risk, I suppose, that you win, or basically what happened, that you win, and then people go and they're just in a good mood, and you know what I mean? The prevailing feeling isn't always negativity, is it, after a win? Yeah. Although one thing I would say is, James, that is my argument, right? All these people have been saying, I've hated I've hated Sullivan for ages, blah blah blah. I'm like, well, I didn't hear you. And I know they will. As I'm saying this, I know I'll get a load of messages in my DMs going, oh, shut up, Will. But normally someone will call me a boring C-bomb, because that is my favourite insult that I get from people. Oh, shut up, Will. We were moaning at the time. It's like, if you just weren't. Like, you might have been amongst yourselves, or like putting it out there on Twitter into the ether, but no one was. And that's what my point was like, if you thought it was that bad and you have done for that long, why weren't you still protesting under David Moyes when it was all going swimmingly? So I am of the opinion that, if you hate Sullivan that badly at the time, I am of the opinion that, you should still do it after a win if you feel that strongly about it. And I do also think that it maybe shows that the strength of feeling isn't quite as widespread as some people would have you believe. Because if a flash in the pan win at home to Newcastle is enough to make people go, I'm not interested, then are they that? You know what I mean? Is that furious feeling and intensity as as prevalent in as many fans as some people would have you believe? And I would caveat that with saying I boycotted the Brentford game, so that's what side of the fence I'm on. But you've also got to. I think the quality of these protests, or the strength in these, particularly if you're sort of like an organizer or whatever, is being humble enough to sort of go, maybe a little bit of a misstep there. I wouldn't call Brentford a misstep at all, really. I think that was sort of, I know there's 20,000 people not in the ground. It's impossible to say whether all of those were protesters. Realistically, a Monday night at home against Brentford, there's going to be at least 10,000 who aren't in there just by virtue of it's Monday night against Brentford and we're rubbish. But even if you said half and it's 10,000 boycotters, then you go, fair enough. And I think it did make an impact on TV. I just sort of fear I would have almost more been for like one of those ones where you don't get to your seat until 15 minutes in. Do you know what I mean? I just sort of felt there was always the risk that would happen. And then perhaps, yeah, it sort of then lacks the impact. And I think with these things, it's sort of often about momentum. And I think the club kind of thwarted a lot of that with the appointment of Nuno, didn't they? Because everyone then goes, oh, hang on a minute. All right, well, they have done something, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? I'm not not sort of saying that people don't feel strongly about it. Just feel like there's always a risk with the one at the weekend that what happened could happen.
Yeah, I agree with you about what you said right at the beginning of that in terms of, when things were going really well under David Moyes, not a peep. So
there will be people going, yes, we were.
I said the same thing about the stadium. No, there was not a single moan and groan about the stadium. And then when we were playing well, when we were winning football matches, no one was blaming the stadium when we lost the game under David Moyes.
Well, when we were beating Sevilla, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
No one was. We'd lose at home to someone, and no one's walking out that ground going, "Oh, it's because of the stadium that we lost that." But then suddenly you lose a few home games, you don't win until February, and everyone's suddenly like, "Oh, the stadium's rubbish." So I do agree that it's less vocal when things are going well. And yeah, with a protest like that, there is the risk that you win the game. And maybe it was like they picked Newcastle at home because it was like, well, we're probably going to lose that. So
yeah.
So that will just give us a little bit more weight at the end, and we end up going on and win it. And it's like, okay, a lot of fans are probably just a little bit like, probably in a little bit of a daze. I was in a bit of a daze walking out the ground going, I can't believe I've just seen us beat Newcastle after losing to Brentford and Leeds. And yeah, people are just going to be like, well, I just want to go in football now. I don't want to spend the afternoon moaning about the owners. I want to go and enjoy that and have a beer. And that's like you said, that's the risk. That's the risk.
But that is the thing, right? That's what I'll say, James, to those people. I do think, and look, I wasn't there, so I do think though that if you're not going to get involved after we beat Newcastle, I don't. Then you can't have that much of a strong opinion on it. Do you know what I mean? I think you've got to put your money where your mouth is with these things. And I'm not digging you out, by the way, but I mean, and I would sort of apply that same thing to you with the Brentford boycott, right? It's sort of what we spoke about. I'm not saying that totally, devoids your thingy to have your right to have an opinion or anything like that, or that I don't understand, obviously, the circumstances outside of West Ham, which sort of also had an impact on your decision Brentford wise. But I do sort of think you can't be ranting and raving about it's a disgrace. I hate David Sullivan, get him out, blah blah blah. You can't be ranting and raving about all that, and then you beat Newcastle at home, and then you go, I'm just going to go to the pub and enjoy myself. It's like, well, if you feel as strongly about it as you say you do, then back it. Words are easy, aren't they? Back it up with actions. And if you were that convinced, not you personally, if the people who moaned but didn't stay for the sit-in, if you're that convinced in your conviction that David Sullivan's a problem and you need to get him out of the club, if you're that convinced, then a flash in the pan win at home to Newcastle wouldn't be enough, or shouldn't be enough, to totally change your perception of the situation, should it? Do you know what I mean? It should be like, no, all right, yeah, we've won today, but the direction that like David Sullivan is taking our club in, which is the gripe of lots of the protesters, it's that one win against Newcastle doesn't change that. I'm not happy. I'm going to make my feelings heard. Yeah, great. I'm here to support the team. I'm pleased we've won and got 3 points. But David Sullivan's not the future. He isn't the answer. If you feel that way, a win at home to Newcastle shouldn't be enough to dissuade you from that sitting, which sort of only leaves one conclusion, in that maybe that feeling isn't quite as widespread, as I say again, as the suggestion can be sometimes.
Yeah, you'll find that those that stayed behind and that were very vocal in the ground on Sunday afternoon would have been those that do feel incredibly strongly about it, win, lose or draw,
of course.
right?
Yeah.
And then there'd be people that'd be like, look,
and I commend them, by the way, James.
Yeah,
Sorry,
fine.
I do. I commend them for sort of their willingness to put their money where their mouth is, sort of thing.
But then there will be fans that would be like, don't particularly like David Sullivan. I'd rather he sold the club. I'm not very happy with the direction in which he's taking the football club. But we just want to go in football, and I want to enjoy that moment. And I think there would have been a lot of fans in there that would have probably intended to bang about after. And there may have been some that did hang about and then just saw it and gone, well, this isn't really doing anything, so we're going to leave. And I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. I'm just trying to, like, it means a lot more or a lot less to some fans than it does to others. And you have to accept that. And in the situation for me, the people just have stuff to do as well.
No, I know. So listen, no, I'm not talking about those people, but I just mean, like, realistically, it's kind of my same sense with Brentford, right? Which is why, even though I was sort of, not fully like, no way I'm going, I wasn't like that, and I didn't pretend I was. The reason I ended up not going was because I was like, look, it's one game out of, however many hundreds of West Ham games I've been to in my life. It's one game, whatever. Like, it'd be unremarkable. It's an evening, I can miss it. I'd rather just do that. I sort of feel the same sort of thing with the sit-in thing, right? It's like when you compare it against the strength of feeling that people say they have, lots of people have, by the way, but when you compare delaying your post-match celebratory pint in the middle of November after a fairly meaningless win against Newcastle in a season that will be forgotten about within a few years because it's been bleak. If you can't delay, like the delaying your post-match celebratory pint by an hour or half an hour or whatever to be part of that is a very, very small price to pay, isn't it? A very small sacrifice, do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
And it's no, you know what I mean? I'm not. I like, I'm, as I've said before, I like generally power to people anyway. It's just in football, society, wherever, who go out and protest and like for things they believe in. I've got ultimate respect for people who do that. I think maybe a bit of a strategic misstep with the post-Newcastle protest. Any other things lined up, James? I don't know if you've seen or read anything from Hammers United. I know there was sort of talk about further action after this. Do you feel again that if Nuno does get it together, which I certainly hope he does, do you feel that there may be, that it might peter out again, all these feelings of anger, or do you think it's sticking around this time?
I don't know. I think I did see. I think there's a march coming up. It might be Burnley on Saturday, but I can't be 100% sure on that.
I think you might be right, James.
Yeah, there's a march coming up, and it could be
Shall
Burnley.
I ask ChatGPT?
No, do not. You're wasting water, Will. Stop doing it. Save the penguins.
It's save the humans. Never mind with the penguins. The penguins are fine in salt water. It's us that needs the fresh water.
Fair enough. If it is on Saturday against Burnley, then it doesn't bode well given history with marches and Burnley at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens just before COVID.
Sorry, ChatGPT, mate, on the case straight away. Yes, there are protest plans by Hammers United directed at the club's board. Here's a quick breakdown. Hammers United have called for a continued, sustained, season-long campaign of protests. One article notes a mass march is expected before West Ham host Burnley on Saturday, the 8th of November, and a protest sit-in was already staged after a recent game against Newcastle. It's asking me, if you like, I can check specific details of the march, time, meeting point, route, and send them to you. Yes, please, I'm going to ask. Carry on, James. Sorry, just
Um,
while I'm using AI for the betterment of the We Are West Ham podcast.
Yeah, it's similar to when there were protests and stuff planned and happening just before COVID. And obviously COVID put a stop to a lot of that. But then as soon as fans came back and were allowed back in grounds, nothing really happened. And obviously West Ham are doing well at that point. So will it be sustained? I'd like to think so. But yeah, if results continue to improve and performances get better, then I don't know. I really don't know. I'd like to think
But
that
does that automatically mean? Go on. Sorry.
I would like to think that Hammers United and the other fan groups and the fans in general will go, yes, okay, yeah, we're doing well, but we still want change. We still want change, and I'd like to think they keep it up. But I think just like I said about the Newcastle City, I think just the overall appetite for large sections of the fans will probably dwindle if we're doing well and things are looking a little bit more positive. Then I think fans would just be like, I don't really want to protest at the moment because I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, fair enough. I think, yeah, but again, it's that attitude, isn't it, that waters down what happens if you're just kicking off when it's going badly. Then it's like, you're not fully convinced that the direction of the club's that bad. Apparently, James, according to ChatGPT, the meet is at Marshgate Lane from 12:45 ahead of that march, ahead of the Burnley game. Again, I just don't. I wonder, or we won't. I would lay my hat on it now that you won't see numbers like we saw in the Burnley match previously. I think the post-match sitting sort of tells you that. And I think sort of even for people there, if you were there and you see that and feel part of it, you're probably more inclined to maybe go, there's a bit of a washout that I'm not going to bother with the next one. I think you need that momentum. And I think, probably a little bit of a momentum killer, that one, unfortunately, for the organisers. But yeah, again, just to reiterate, definitely power to them, power to anyone really who sort of stands up for what they believe and what they care about, and as the Coners to go and protest and try and do something about it. Listen, James Jones, that's it for another We Are West Ham podcast. We've won a game, which is nice. We will have an opposition view for you later this week with Joe from the Turfcast Burnley podcast. Head of that game against Burnley this weekend. Anything else to add, James, before we say goodbye?
No. Just looking forward to. I'm actually looking forward to the Burnley game now, because that was very pleasant on Sunday afternoon. I enjoyed every minute of it. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to West Ham playing football again, which is mental because it's literally just one game and one win, but it injected some confidence in me that yes, we're going to be okay. We're not going to go down.
Excellent. What a thing to be excited.
We might finish 17th. We might finish 17th, but we're not going down.
West Ham are going to exist for another year with no chance of doing anything vaguely more exciting than that. Whoopee do, James Jones. Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. Just a reminder, follow us on Twitter at @WeAre_West Ham. Follow us on Instagram at @WeAreWestHamPod. You can, of course, download these podcasts from everywhere: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, Google, all the usual platforms. Subscribe on there if you're not already. I imagine most of you are. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please do that. That'd be really cool. We Are West Ham podcast on YouTube. And if you fancy getting these podcasts a day before everyone else and without any adverts in them, you can pay just a couple of quid a month and you get all of them. The reaction podcasts and the opposition view, they all come if you sign up at patreon.com/WeAreWestHam podcast for just a couple of quid a month. Why would you not? What a deal that is. And you get to support me and James in doing so. Thanks very much for listening, everyone. West Ham are massive again, it would appear. Nuno Espirito Santo is also a good manager again, it would appear. Freddie Potts is going to be the next Declan Rice and better, according to James Jones, before he leads England to the World Cup. And I can't remember any of the other fence sitting that James Jones did. But that's why you come back here to the We Are West Ham podcast to hear me winding him up and both of us talk and despair and delight in equal measure about all things West Ham. And we're glad you're on the journey with us. Thanks for listening. West Ham are massive. Up the Hammers. Speak to you later.